Lillard, he gives over here to Simons, who will try to drive it. High hanging hook up and in for the lead. Blazers win.
There's going to be a lot of close games, and I think all of our games, whether we start that way or not, are probably going to go down to the wire.
Pensare Basketball, Mr. Robert Misovich, breaking down this insane Raptors trade that we saw on the Raptors Facebook forum on Facebook. My man, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Let's cut right to it because this guy named Jeffrey Ho on the Toronto Raptors forum on Facebook said, I am Christmas shopping. And what stood out to me was literally the comments, okay? I want to read just a few and actually put them on the screen. One of them said, I would hate to be your kids on Christmas morning, okay? That's pretty hilarious. And then the other one came from Josh Gallant, who I don't know personally. Why would we trade for some young bums and a draft pick after making the Blazers a super team? Stick to smoking meth. Robert, your thoughts on these comments? He said make him a super team. He said make him a super team.
Oh my God. You're not going to be a super team with a backcourt of Dame, Lillard, and Fred VanVleet. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you so much.
Look, man, like honestly, I've been railing against this concept of not watching other teams for a really long time. I understand that most people who follow sports pretty much follow their team. And frankly, when they're watching the game, even when their team is facing off against the other team, they're usually watching either superstars in the other team or they're watching their own team. They're not really watching role players, emerging talents, prospects, guys like this. I think it's pretty batshit crazy, to be honest. Some of the comments, like I'm a moderator on the group, and I really wanted to say, like, look, OG is one of my favorite players on earth, right? Like, I love him, and I just made a nice little mixtape on Pensare Basketball about how much I love Thad Young. I love these two guys, but in terms of a talent swap, this deal is like very imbalanced, but not in the way that Raptors think, like Raptors fans think. And it's pretty insane to me that someone who's averaging 24 points per game is just some young bum. Like, you know what I mean? Like Anfernee Simons, bro, like we've been watching Fred VanVleet shoot 38% or 36% for an entire calendar year, not be able to put any pressure on the rim, not be able to break his man down. Do you understand what a frigging breath of fresh air offensively? Like, we have the 30th ranked offense, half-court offense in the NBA. Do you know how much a guy like Anfernee Simons would snipe that up? Our best three-point shooter, apart from Malachi Flynn, is still shooting in the 30s. You understand, what a godsend someone like Jeremy Grant, who's, I think shooting 46% from three this year, 45%. He was, seventh in the league. Like, what a godsend that guy would be. Like, I find it really just stupid. And it's this is my biggest beef with fans in general, is watch other teams. Just do it.
Overall, when I looked at this trade, I was like, man, this guy, Mr. Ho on Facebook, he really got bad pub because everybody, I don't think there was one person that agreed with them, which I think was super unfair because if you watch basketball, you would know that Jeremy Grant, as you said, is a sniper. Simons, I've been a huge fan since he came into the league at 18 years old, and the kid has gotten better every single year, and that's why he got paid, right? $22 million per season. Shaedon Sharpe, who I've watched in person, he was a huge unknown in college. Obviously, I didn't like how he approached the whole situation with Kentucky, but looking at him now, if things go right, it screams star, like modern day star, and then you get an asset out of it. I was like, I think the Raptors say no because of their identity, just in general, but it's not like this lopsided trade that these hundreds of fans made it seem to be in the comments.
Honestly, if you get this type of talent upgrade, young talent,
I would say yes.
Younger,
I would say yes, and just shake it up a little bit and give you guys a different look. Because Simons and Scotty Barnes with Pascal would be really nice, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I think from a fit perspective, this screams complete
different
shift in identity, right?
Shift in identity, right?
You're giving up three very positive defenders for three guys who are not overly positive defenders, and I'm putting that very politely. Jeremy Grant is an average defender. Simons is a pretty bad defender, and Shaedon Sharpe.
Jeremy Grant on the Raptors would be solid, though. Jeremy Grant on the Raptors would be solid.
They said that about Gary Trent too. I mean, honestly, like,
But he was a
I
bad
mean,
defender as it is, though. Like he was a bad defender in Portland.
he had the reputation in the bubble of being a very pesky defender. Then he had a bad year for Detroit, for a bad year for the Blazers. I mean, honestly, we are talking about exactly the same team. Ironically, look, in all honesty, I understand that filling in for a defensive hole like Dame and Nurk, who
Right.
can't really switch out. Like, I watched the game today between the
The Pacers.
between the Blazers and the Pacers, and it was just eye popping to see how many defensive miscues there were and how much better the team looked with Eubanks, which ironically he was a Raptor for 12 seconds before
He's
they waived
solid.
him. He's a really good player.
He's
Like, I have no
solid.
idea
He
why the hell,
is.
and he fit our freaking identity. I have no idea why we waived him, because he's better than Kem Birch in my opinion. So interesting to see like how much having guys like Simons and Dame puts so much pressure on the rim because of how many blow-bys they give up and how much you have to scheme to compensate for that. So look, the Raptors have been pro defensive players, but this has only really been the identity for the last 4 years. Prior to that, they had Jonas Valanciunas, they had DeMar DeRozan. Neither of them are world beaters defensively. They had Norman
Mm-hmm.
Powell for the longest time, even during the championship run, and he is not a good defender at all. I don't know if people remember Norman Powell or if they over remember. If I'm surprised every time I meet someone who thinks Norman Powell was a good defender. He is not a good defender. He is he is a terrible defender, and just a
He's
really
a
good
loud
offensive player.
defender, right? Yeah. Like to me,
That is a
Gary
good
Trent's
term.
like a loud defender. Like Shumpert was a loud defender to me. Like he was never a good defender to me.
Iman Shumpert.
Yeah. Especially on the Kings.
I actually thought, okay, well, I watched him a lot on the Knicks, and I thought he was a pretty solid defender personally. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, there's plays, that some defenders make, like, that are, as you say, loud, right? Like a
Yeah.
big block, or like a really timely steal, or just they gap the passing lane and they pull it down. And you're like, wow. Or they're very twitchy so that they can exert like a crazy amount of energy and look like they're really shutting a guy down for a possession. And those possessions stick out. What doesn't stick out is, trailing, a guy when he doesn't have the ball. Because I've noticed this with a lot of basketball fans is they really pay attention to the ball. But everything happening away from the ball, they don't
important.
see it.
It's
So
super
how
important.
a guy cuts and how he relocates. Like the other day I did a game breakdown for Pensare Basketball, and I was watching OG in the games that the Raptors got blown out in. And it's just like, it's so amazing how consistently correct what he does is without the ball, and nobody notices it. Right? Like, it's barely anybody notices. I think like very few people watch the game to that depth where they're seeing like just in terms of like how he's mapping out angles to improve the spacing. Like, he will relocate by five feet on the 3-point line, whereas in the exact same situation you'll see Gary Trent stay because he doesn't read it. Like, and I think like having smart players like OG. So to this trade specifically, to stay on point, I think even with the explosion that Anfernee Simons is having offensively and on a very team-friendly contract, right? I think that's a very reasonable contract for an offensive star. And we know offense gets paid in the NBA, right? And even with the amount of rim pressure he puts on and the shooting and all that stuff, I still think OG is marginally a better player right now. It's not way better, but he's slightly better. Like, in terms of, look, OG has propelled himself every year offensively as well. He's had some setbacks with injuries, but yeah, like this year.
This may be a hot take, but I think OG is going to be better than Siakam.
I think he is better than Siakam. I just think that I think he's already better than Siakam. I think like we just looked at Siakam's defensive, stats, and they're like embarrassing. Like, they're bad, right? Like, he's not a great defender. So the fact that OG is not only with Siakam out carrying your offense really just as your first option, putting up 12 points in the fourth quarter, being efficient for the most part. I mean, yeah, he had a couple of those 6 for 20 games. Who doesn't? He's adjusting, but I've always noticed with OG, and if you talk to this guy at any level, you understand he's so smart. Like, he's such a smart player, and I've always believed that smart players, they tend to learn from their mistakes pretty well. He's never been given the opportunity to create this way, right? Siakam was
Right.
given this opportunity 3 years ago, and he's now emerging as the passer. There was a beautiful no-look pass that OG threw the other game, and someone asked in the post-game, are you being inspired by Scotty Barnes, on that pass? Because
That's
we haven't
funny.
seen anything like that from him. But that's the thing. It's like, this is what a quarter of a season, not even a quarter of a season, it's like an eighth of a season that he's had this role on offense. And we're already seeing such promising results, which includes huge fourth quarters, efficient scoring, two-way. Like, to me, OG is definitively like the most winning player among all of these players. But after that, when we talk about the
But
rest
that's
of
why
it,
he
which
was
is
so upset in the summer when these trade rumors came out, because he was unhappy with his role, because I think within himself, he knew how good he could be, and he wasn't maximized to his potential, right, on this team in the pecking order. And now that with all these injuries, which I think were a blessing in disguise, we got to see what he really can do, which is what I've been super high for a long time. Oh, I mean, if y'all go back to my 2017 videos, I had OG very high, and I knew that his injury would hurt him. But he's finally living to the expectation where I thought he would be. It took him longer than what I thought, but he's starting to get there. And to your point, I'm a big Siakam guy. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I know you're not, but I think Siakam's a little bit better. But at the same time, this guy is younger. He's better defensively. So I do think he has more upside. And eventually, in my opinion, this is my take, he's going to, beat him to that punch. So
he's 3 years younger.
Right.
That's number one.
Like, full circle. Is that why you say no to this move?
Okay, look, I know that the Raptors will say no to this.
Me too. But it's not crazy. It's not like this. It's like this.
Here's the crazy thing. I think you lose more games with this trade. I think you win fewer games this year by trading for these three players.
At this juncture of the season, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
At any juncture of the season, your long-term prospects look hella more promising once you make this trade, because what Shaedon Sharpe could be, like if he gets into this system right now, his tools potentially to become a defender are off the charts, right? Like really his lateral quickness, his burst, his offensive, like his package, his total package. I watched him
He'd be a star on the Raptors. Like, y'all would make him into like a star.
He might be, and it's like that's the thing. It's a big trade-off of defense for offense, but I do think that, again, and look, the Raptors are what we call a factory, in the NBA terms, right? They have a shooting school, they have the 905,
right.
They just develop. So and they've developed a lot of pebbles into diamond rough, like but when they actually have a chance to work with like elite talent like Shaedon Sharpe or Anfernee Simons, like guys who actually have that level of upside that maybe someone like Fred just doesn't have, cerebrally or physically, just cannot do some of the things that Simons can do, then I think that there's a trade-off. But I like Jeremy Grant just because I think he would be great. I just don't know where he fits in. Like, is he? I think he'd be a great fifth starter for us, to be honest. He would be the weakest defender in the starting lineup, though. But he's not bad. He's just not great.
He's not a bad defender at all.
Yeah. So I mean, like he totally fits into. I'm sort of surprised that the Raptors didn't offer something to the Pistons for him when he was available.
How the hell did the Blazers get him for nothing? I mean, for like a future second, I think, and like a late first. It was insane. It's the stupidest trade ever, and I wish that they would have offered it to somebody. Like, if they offered it to us, I would be shocked if we said no to that, because that's insane. But like, you actually have to absorb the contract, right? Like, without giving anything back. And I guess like they were just looking for a salary dump, but it's like, to dump Jeremy Grant, like, bro, you're for
the
nothing.
Pistons.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, play him out. Like,
what's funny is that they're actually going to get a first-round pick for Bojan when the deadline happens. Like, that's another guy that I'd be looking at if I'm the Raptors or if I'm the Kings or any of these teams that want to get over the hump. Like, that's another smart European player who can get you a 30-piece on any given night.
Not a bad defender either. But the thing is, the Raptors have a player in OG Anunoby that every other team wants. There's not one team in the league that would not start OG Anunoby tomorrow.
Right.
Even the Boston Celtics. I was thinking about it. I'm like, is there a team in the league that wouldn't start him? I think Boston would start him at 4 with Tatum, Brown,
100%.
like Horford in a heartbeat. So there's like not one team in the league that wouldn't start this guy. Is there a team in the league that wouldn't start Simons? 100%.
Yeah.
There are teams that wouldn't start him. There are teams that wouldn't start Grant. I don't think there's a single team in the league that would start Shaden Sharp right now. So maybe the Magic.
I think Grant starts on like 97% of teams.
No, he does not. I don't think he does.
He don't start on the Celtics, maybe. He
One.
starts on the Bucks. He starts on the Bucks.
Okay, sure. In place of who? In place of who? In place of Grayson Allen?
Yes.
So he's playing 2? You're playing Drew Holiday.
He's a good enough shooter,
Grant?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess he plays 3. Middleton
he plays on the
2.
Sixers.
He starts on the Sixers. Okay.
I'm trying to think
over who?
Like all the big teams.
On the Sixers, Maxey,
if
Harden.
If PJ is your guy, then I'm starting you over PJ. Like who else starts on that team?
But I mean, like you might look at it from
he starts
a
on the
Heat
and
say
100%.
Okay.
He starts on the Kings. He starts on the Raptors.
He starts on the Mavericks. He starts on the Kings. Right now, if we just traded for him, he probably would start here too, in place of
who?
Gary Trent Jr.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. There you go. So like he starts on 97% of the teams. Like he's good. He's a 6'8" wing that can create his own shot, shoot the hell out of the ball, and is not a negative defender. Like he starts on almost every team except the Celtics. Literally. Maybe the Warriors. Yeah.
No, I think the Warriors would start him.
Over who?
Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and him.
No, Looney is like their starter. But that's my point, though.
No,
like he starts on on everybody. Like he's good. Like he's good.
He don't get me wrong. He's
good.
Very good, and I think that it's insulting that that a certain team just gave him away for nothing. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that OG is the best player in this trade. Usually, there's a rule of thumb that if you give up the best player in the trade, you probably lose the trade. I think I've seen that rule backfire quite a few times. But in most cases, it is a solid philosophy to approach with. I do, however, think that for the Raptors, like from their side, they get the second, third, and fourth best asset back. And for all that people want to say about Fred VanVleet, honestly, he does not have more trade value right now than Shaden Sharp. I don't think.
Hell no.
Yeah, like
hell no.
A guy on a rookie contract, especially with the BRI spike and everything, like having a guy on team control that genuinely is flashing like starter/star potential at this age, like he's like the youngest player in the league, or the second youngest player in the league. Like it is nuts. What a guy like that, if he's coachable, if he's willing to be coached. Also, he's from Canada. Like the amount of he's from Ontario.
Right.
Like he's from here. Like fuck. Like that's the guy. Like I mean, if there was ever there's got to be a premium on that for us, right? Like to bring a guy like that.
Well, that's gonna do it, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of the CK Podcast here on the Basketball Zone YouTube channel. Make sure you guys check out Robert's YouTube channel, Pensare Basketball. Awesome analysis, breakdowns, all good stuff there on this channel. We'll link it down below. Robert, as always, my brother, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.